Good morning, Camilla. How are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Freddie. Thanks for having me. It's super awesome to be here.
Great to have you. I want to jump in and just straight away say to you, is it fair to say that you are quite into the psychology of people?
I find people fascinating. So, yes, yeah, absolutely, it's fair to say that. Psychology has really always fascinated me. Why we do the things that we do, why we are the way that we are. And I feel, yeah, I mean, I think I've been working on my self-awareness for many, many years in order to just like uncover sort of a lot of the motives and the reasons why I do things. And I just find I love people watching as well. I find it fascinating to see that kind of play out in others.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is why I think you and I get on so well, because we have a similar interest in sort of people and why they do certain things. I was actually at an event last night, and one of the people I was speaking to, she was into a lot of similar things, and turns out that she is literally a psychologist, a clinical psychologist. And some of those things that she was able to explain in terms of why people do certain things and why we mirror. So, when you're stood with someone at a bar, and after a while you'll sort of sync up and you'll start doing similar things to them. I just find it so interesting. And as we take that into sort of self-confidence, where we're going to go in this conversation, and also business, it becomes more and more powerful. And a lot of the stuff that I know about you and read about you is that you were super creative and curious from a young age, right? So working back from that, what is the story that took you into the hair and makeup industry?
How long have we got? Right. So yeah, I was heavily into my art at school. Like I love creating. I still do now. Although I really should let myself play a little bit more on the art side of things. But yeah, and I'm definitely a creative person. Really, I think art was a way of me expressing myself. And again, thinking about sort of psychology and self-awareness and sort of digging within and trying to work things out, I think art was kind of my way of doing that. So I was into art school. I was also into theatre as well, performing, and yeah, just really enjoyed again this sort of interpreting things and just yeah just creating things and performing and creating something out of nothing, which you can obviously do with characters, with acting, and also through art pieces. So when I left school, it was art school or drama school for me, and I didn't think I was thick-skinned enough for drama school, so I ended up choosing art school, and I went to Central St Martin's, and did my art foundation there, and absolutely hated it. I had so much nurturing at school and a really great art teacher. I don't know if many schools really prepare you for university. I'm not sure university really prepares you for work. There's like someone needs to bridge the gap between the two, like there. But I did my art foundation. Really didn't enjoy it. However, I was technically at a really, a top university in the art world, and they'd offered me a place on what they call compact scheme, which is earlier than all the other universities, and I was applying for like Leeds. I wanted to also get out of London because I was going a little bit off the rails, in with the wrong crowd, doing some of the wrong things, and sort of going down this spiral. And I think the lack of security and direction with uni obviously wasn't helping me at all in sort of that state. But the long and the short is I freaked out. I thought I might have nowhere to go if I don't accept this place where I'm at, and then I don't get anywhere else. So I stayed there. I did a design for performance degree. Well, I say I did. I lasted one whole term, and I was straight out of there. And I was just like, this isn't, for me. I just wanted to stand on my own 2 feet, get some money and have a bit of security, get a 9 to 5 job. That's kind of what I wanted. So that's what I went off and did. And that didn't last very long either, because very quickly I realized that office kind of work, and it just wasn't for me. I just felt very uncomfortable. I had like ants in my pants. If I got given a task, I'd do it in like record time. It just wasn't for me. I felt like a bit of a, yeah, very uncomfortable kind of sitting in an office. So that obviously didn't help mental state either. And then, as I said, this whole thing sort of spiraled out of control. And sort of going into my personal story a bit, it kind of led me into rehab just before my 21st birthday for substance and alcohol abuse, which was like cocaine mainly, and alcohol, and just got a bit of a mess. I got a bit of a mess. So I went into rehab. I was in the addiction treatment program for a month, which is how long it is. It's 4 weeks at the Priory in North London. And I was in there over Christmas and New Year. And so basically, when I came out, I was starting from scratch, really. And there's a real beauty in that. As much as I was a very broken person, like I was in pieces, I guess, like I had to put myself back together. But when when you've got nothing to lose, then you can, you have that kind of, you can just start from anywhere. You're not trying to hold on to anything, because I'd kind of lost sort of everything, really, and lost myself in the process. But again, I got to rebuild myself. And I started thinking about my, what I enjoyed doing, what my strengths were, what I could possibly want to do with the rest of my life. Because obviously I've got to work. So, what kind of career would I might want to do? And that's when I thought back to my arts at school, and just the things that lit me up as a child, sort of creating. And it was thinking about my artwork, and actually the subject of my artwork. And it's really interesting, because I've realized later on now, but all my artwork very much was, I like mixed media. It was all a little bit disturbing. I was always distorting bodies and faces, and just, playing with the boundaries of things, and kind of making things sort of grotesque or interesting, or, just kind of changing things around. And so it was because of that, because of this distorting of bodies and faces, that I was trying to, like, what career would that be? And I was like, prosthetics, like prosthetic makeup. So that's really how I kind of got to there. And I ended up going to train at a place called Grease Paint, which is not there anymore. But it was a really, really great makeup school. And that's where my makeup career kind of started. And that was in 2009. Or 2010, I think. Yeah, graduated in 2010. And that's how I got into makeup. The very long story of it.
But it's actually really interesting, obviously, looking back on that story, because you can see quite clearly the journey that you've come through and why certain things come together, right? So, later we'll talk about self-confidence and where that's come from, and what the work you're doing there, but also the art side of it and the interest in psychology. It's so interesting to see how it all plays together. And do you think that, tying those things together, the art and the psychology, it is one of the things that brought you to doing this sort of makeup journey? And actually, are you a people person? Would you say you like to be around people, or are you more of a people watcher?
A bit of both, because I am a bit of an introverted extrovert, or an extroverted introvert. I don't know.
Sure.
But I do like being around people. I find I get drained very easily. And that's something interesting. Again, on like a self-awareness level, I'm like, that's just really interesting. I just get, drained, and more so with around some people, but I find like I really need to come back and sort of recharge. And I think that's quite a common thing for an introverted character. However, I'm a Leo, and I love a party, hence my previous days that got me into a bit of trouble. That's still in me. And I like to go and have a good fun and socialize, but I need to kind of run away and recover for like a few days. But yeah, no, I just I enjoy. I think there's links everywhere, isn't there? There's links. If if we look back far enough, we can join the dots. And this is why I really encourage people to reflect, and reflect often. And keep reflecting sort of year on year, because things like journaling, if you look back, you can see things that are written down. You're like, oh well, actually, that's changed from then, or actually that links back to that, and this time this year. And you can see these patterns emerging when we reflect back on things. And I think that's actually a really powerful tool for self-awareness.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't do journaling in the sort of the normal sense, but I will record like how I'm feeling, how the business is done, what I've been doing in terms of food and activity, in like a really simple spreadsheet or something, just because I think things affect you like way more than you think. So if you've had like a really bad day in the business, I genuinely think it will be, if you look at the last three days, week, or whatever it is, if you look at the food, the exercise, people you've been around, and what you've actually done, I think there's always a story to be told, and people, they don't reflect enough to understand that, to then learn and take it forwards. I genuinely think it's really interesting. You mentioned there that you're a Leo. Is that something that you think is super related to you as a person? Do you take note of the star signs?
I don't really, and I guess no, that's probably more what people have told me when like, oh, when what's last sign, Leo? Oh, that makes sense. And again, you start picking up these things, don't you? And they form part of your belief. So you've just pointed out
Yeah.
a belief that I have, that actually no, I'm not really into star signs, but so many people have said that to me that I'm like, oh, actually, that I'm like this because of this. So even that I find fascinating. We have to be really careful about what we're picking up off other people and kind of adopting into our identity. It's like, well, actually, is that true, or is that just something that we've had so many impressions on us of it that therefore we believe it to be true?
Yeah, I agree. But the reason I say that is because I was interested, and I was going to ask you if you knew what. So I'm an Aries, but I don't know what that means. So I was going to be like, wow, what can you tell me about me? So it's almost the psychology of me then being like, what do you know? Yeah, I mean, the psychology of how we think and the sort of the things that tie it all together is super interesting. I really want to ask you about your first business, right? So that first business when you decided to go out on your own. Can you talk about that for a little while?
Sure. So yes, so that would be hair and makeup, which has now evolved into an agency, and it's called CJC Hair and Makeup now, but it was Camilla Collins Hair and Makeup Artist. So I've just taken my initials.
Nice.
And yeah, I changed that to in 2019, trying to sort of pull myself out a little bit of it, and detach myself, maybe something that we'll go into later. But yeah, my first business was, I was a freelancer, really, freelance hair and makeup artist. I was trained in TV, film, and theatre, hair and makeup at Grease Paint. We had a little wedding bit. We learned continuity, so I learned a bit of hair cutting. You do not want me to cut your hair; I'm awful at it, but that's more for like TV, film work, continuity, so kind of basic skills. We had like a little bit of a fashion bit. Then we obviously learned a few about like the 1920s, 30s, 40s, popular look. But then, as I say, there was this little bridal section that we did, and I really loved it. And I was like, oh, I think I want to do, I think I want to do bridal hair and makeup, because then I thought, oh, brides and, a nice day and it'll be fun. And I remember the tutor saying to us all, like, if you're doing brides, then you'll be working every single weekend. And I was thinking, oh no, I don't want to be working every weekend. I want my life. And little did I know that when you enter the filming industry, like that's like life over. It's never my weekends. Like it's just full on. So yeah, I started off in the filming industry and was just kind of building my portfolio, really trying to create a show reel, collaborating with people, and working for expenses or box money, which is just where they cover your expenses just for your kit, really, which is usually like 20 quid or something a day, 25 quid. And the long and short is, I was enjoying that to a certain degree, but I felt like didn't know if I was getting anywhere. And to be honest, you have to work for free for 2 to 3 years before you get your foot in the door. Because again, like everything in life, Freddie, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And during that time,
Sure.
Yes, you're building your own confidence in your skills and your artistry. You're also building up your portfolio that you can present to people to say, look, I've worked on X, Y, and Z, and here's what I'm capable of. But really, I think it's down to the connections that you make. And in fairness, I did actually meet a woman who got me onto, I think, a pot and noodle commercial. She gives back like once or twice a year to students and works on like student projects. And that's her thing. And I met her working on a student project. So it was just kind of pure chance and luck, really. And then she got me to work on a pot noodle commercial, and then I was obviously meeting people kind of higher up in the game, and got introduced to someone's agent. So I was kind of heading in that direction, and but what happened was I assisted on a few weddings, and just really. So it wasn't until I was basically exploring other options of work, and I always was on the computer actually, looking for more things to collaborate on, or more works, refreshing job boards and things, and I came across this woman, or makeup artist rather, that needed some help with a wedding, and I was like, oh, let me try that. And the long and short is that it just didn't feel like work, Freddie. Like when I went to that wedding morning and I was with those girls and I was doing their hair and makeup, it just didn't feel like work at all. And I came away from that day, and also I got like given cash in my hand, which is something I hadn't really seen very much, with all this kind of working for free. And I just, yeah, came away and I just thought, you know what, I think this is what I'm meant to be doing. That's kind of what I felt in my heart. And I think that, is very much because of the energy kind of in the room and the people that I was working with. And this is why I believe that it's actually, as much as makeup artistry is great, it's more about the people for me. And energy is also like super, super important as well. So that's kind of how my bridal business began. And I built that up just me for a year or two. And yeah, I moved on to kind of exploring the agency idea quite early on because weddings are very seasonal. So you only really work in the summer. I think people get married all over the year a bit more now. But when I was starting out, sort of, 2010, 11, 12 time, it was a bit more seasonal. And so you get frustrated where all your marketing efforts, your energy, your time, your money goes into trying to get inquiries through, and you get 4 for one day and you can only do one because you can only be in one place at a time. And I just thought this doesn't really make sense. So what if, I was to get a little team together, and just, yeah, still be able to make a bit of money from those bookings that I wasn't able to take on. And that's how the agency started. And it was called Camilla Collins Hair and Makeup Artist .com up until 2019, so for quite a while. And then I rebranded to CJC because I wanted to create my own brand page. So I started moving on to other things and things that I do now, just to free up my own name and give it back to me for all the other stuff that I wanted to do.
It's so cool. And, part of the brand, or at least your personal brand that I see you, posting about, talking about, is not to stay in your lane, and it's your birthright to have fun. And it sounds like, yours, this is a super successful business now, right? At CJC. And do you think that by not staying in your lane and by having all that experience and then taking what you learned from university and art, and then also through, the media makeup, and then seeing that you wanted to have more fun and you could have such an impact in the wedding industry, but actually that you had the experience of, a different type of art form, do you think that's part of what's pushed you towards so much success?
I think I just don't like rules. I never have. I don't see why we should play by the rules. I don't think we can have much fun if we do play by them all the time. I mean, obviously there's like laws in place for reasons and certain rules, but it's so much more fun kind of bending the rules. And I think more so now, there's so much opportunity for us all. Years and years ago, and it's a my parents, or probably more so my mum, like struggles to kind of understand, can't you just pick one thing and just, stay calm and just, do your career and, find a nice partner and get married and just do the normal thing. And it's like, no, I can't. I don't wire it that way. But also because there's so much opportunity, and why pick one thing? Why stick to one thing? And everything moves at such a fast pace now, doesn't it? And there's lots of opportunity, and in terms of running a business these days and marketing, you've got to be a social media, particularly in the early stages before you're outsourcing it, marketing manager, you want a podcast for your business, you've got to be like a speaker, there's all these things in order to run a business, these other skills that you have to get good at. So of course, naturally, it's going to potentially sort of go into other areas. But I think our unique power our power is our uniqueness. So, and we each, our individuality, like that's kind of our gift. And I think when we start, trying to stick to a lane and play by the rules, we disempower ourselves, and we're not kind of tapping into everything that we've got. And only when we do that can we do the best work that we can, and also be like innovative and create like new stuff, and change people's lives, solve meaningful problems, and change the world in and on a larger scale. So that's why I just think it's really important not to stick in your lane. And also just it's the way of having the most fun doing it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this episode, I really want to make it around that self-confidence, because you talk a lot about personal image and self-confidence with your clients now. And I think you could, I'd love actually to hear from you. How do you believe that, apart from the coaching that you're doing now, to start with, how did the makeup side of it benefit people's self-confidence and make you see that connection that you're like, I'm actually able to give people so much confidence on their special day or before they go out on set? And how could you see that was creating that feeling and giving them that power?
So I think, makeup is great as a tool. And, the same with fashion and things like that. We have all these great tools that are great to give us that little boost of confidence, but we have to carry ourselves after that. So it's kind of getting off the starting block, I think, with these things. And, I say this all the time. I realized really early on in my career as a makeup artist is that the conversations that took place in the makeup chair were arguably more important than the makeup was being applied. And I used to joke that I could probably send someone, not that I ever would, down the aisle looking like a clown, as long as, we'd instill, that had that conversation and kind of, making them feel like really confident and great within themselves. And I just think the words and the stories and stuff that takes place is more important than what they kind of see in the mirror. Is how they feel. And just having that conversation is just more important, I think, than the makeup. But it's a great tool for someone at home. A swipe of lipstick can suddenly make you feel like, ready for the day, ready to, nail that pitch or whatever. And it's all to do with your self-image as well. And there's a great book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, which goes into all of this, like, kind of our self-image. And he was basically a surgeon that had done these surgeries for people and found that afterwards, so say they've had something wrong with they thought they had something wrong with their nose, they wanted to fix that, he'd fix it, they'd look completely different, and they'd be like, it's no different. And he'd be like, what? I'm looking at it. And because the problem wasn't, the problem was in their heads, right? The problem wasn't actually what the thing was, and they were projecting whatever it was into that thing, whether it's their nose or part of their face. And this is I had a conversation a while ago with a friend of mine who's a psychotherapist who was talking about how very much we can, like, put sort of trauma into a physical feature of our face or our bodies or something, or kind of harbor all that kind of negative feeling from, like, childhood or something like that, and just put it into a certain feature of ourselves. So really a lot of it, I think, is to do with the mind, and that's what really kind of fascinated me. And I think over time I just felt like I wanted to make a bit more of lasting change with people, rather than just sort of a quick fix for a day, for a wedding, for a party, or something like that.
Sure. So you literally learn that the impact you're having, you could literally use a placebo effect of what you're putting on them and actually have the real impact with the conversation and their mindset. It's quite amazing. And you've written a book about it, right?
I have, yes, called #NoFilterNeeded. And yeah, I think that was me. I was at kind of crossroads in 2019. Was it 2019? Yeah. And I did a business accelerator, which you know about, with Daniel Priestley, which focused on the 5 Ps. One of them is P for publish. And yeah, so I ended up publishing a book through that kind of 9-month, or sort of after the 9-month program that I did. And really, because the whole, that whole program was really about kind of mining the gold within you and finding out, what you're about, what really lights you up. And sort of becoming a key person of influence in your industry. That's kind of the aim of the game. I took it as, I just want to become a key person of influence, full stop, because I wasn't sure about my industry. I didn't know if I wanted to be part of my industry, and also, was I part of the wedding industry, or was I part of the beauty industry, or wedding and events industry. So I mean, that book that I wrote was kind of the more I kind of dug around, the more I realized that I was actually pretty pissed off at the beauty industry and the way the kind of the way it was going, the more and more products it was bringing out and pushing upon us. And when I got asked to write blogs for sites, they were always like, can we have product recommendations? And I used to get like a little bit annoyed, because I'm like, it's all the same shit. Like, it's coming out the same factory most of the times. For instance, like brushes, MAC brushes, they're just branded, but they come out the same factory, and then you just pay over the odds for the brand name, which is, it happens all the time with stuff. But it was just, I just wanted to kind of open people's eyes up to that, because I felt like it was just ramping up, speed. And it happens in all marketing where, marketers will play on our insecurities in order to coerce us into a purchase. That's what marketing is, really, making us kind of feel lack. But I just found the beauty industry just to be particularly more damaging. And as much as there was great technology coming out of it, and really great treatments that could help people, where do you kind of draw the line in doing more harm than good, and kind of pushing people into wanting things more? And I think with the rise in social media as well, which I also cover in the book, people are constantly comparing themselves to others, and they're constantly, we had the contouring technique, which technically is a drag technique, been around for years, for makeup and changing the facial features, or the bone structure rather of the face. Yet Kim Kardashian sort of puts it on and everybody loves it. And then you look at the Instagram accounts and everybody looks identical, because they're using the same technique that's changing the bone structure. And that's where, everybody's losing their individuality and also trying to be like everybody else. And it was just from seeing that's, why I wanted to kind of put the book out there to say, look, and it starts off by looking at how we've used changing our appearance to solicit power and status for thousands and thousands of years. It's nothing new. And saying, look, we do this and it's okay because that's, what we do. And you were talking about mirroring, weren't you, earlier on in the conversation? And, that need for connection. We want to feel connected to others. We want to be like others. We don't want to be cast out from the pack. Like, there's a lot of stuff and psychology going on there, as well. But, just saying, this is happening, but actually this is really what's going on. And here's, there's a beauty bullshit busting section of the book. Here's what the marketers are actually playing at, and here's what statistics really mean. And how about we dig within you, and just, have a look at all the stuff that you've got going on that actually no one can take away from you, because you were born with that. And you might have forgotten because you got swept up with the way kind of life is, and distracted and, played upon by everything going on. But if we can get you back to you and get you back to that, then we can build, your confidence from the inside out rather than the outside in, and you'll feel much better.
Exactly. And as Daniel Priestley would say, you're standing on a mountain of value, which is what we've talked about and learned about together, right? So, everyone has that value within them. And it's that self-confidence piece, which is fundamentally what you're talking about, right? So there's so much psychology in makeup and why people put it on so they can fit in, and they compare to one another. Comparison is the thief of joy. But fundamentally, you are looking for that self-confidence to be like, oh, I look better today. I can go out, I can hold my head high because I've been able to change my appearance and I think I look better and I fit in better. It's a self-confidence piece, right? And I think you've broken it down really well into some elements as well that I really like. You broke them down, the elements of confidence, into self-image, your environment, your habits, and your routine. And obviously we've covered self-image there a little bit, but I'd like to refer back to your journey, your health and fitness journey that you've been on over the last few years, and how you sort of developed that sort of part of your life to improve your own self-image, if it's fair to say, or the confidence from within on that as part of that sort of 4 elements that you broke it down into.
Sure. I think going back to the whole, I've been obsessed with transformation, as I said, with my artwork and things like that when I was a kid, and so with my fitness journeys, kind of fallen into a little bit of bodybuilding, and it was a lockdown diet that got out of hand, really. Although I did do a show back in 2018 once, but
I was going to say, you got to say it's a lockdown thing. You did pretty well.
Yeah. Got going with it. So no, it was good, but that was the thing. And I noticed in lockdown, it was so easy to stick to that diet and to be focused because there were no distractions. You didn't have, you weren't rushing around all over town, and, I was still doing a little bit of work, but, people weren't saying, oh, come out to eat and come out to drink, and that focus is amazing. And if you can grab a bit of that, then it's great. Because you can really get traction on yourself or with something. But, going back to, everything, I think the thing is confidence comes from, stability and feeling stable. And stability. It's like building a house, brick by brick, layer by layer. Like you've got to put that good foundations as well in. And your foundations are your routine, your habits. Um, so in the work that I do, I talk a lot about sorting out your basic needs and getting that kind of running on automation. So, you know, you're not going to have a perfect week diet wise or nutrition wise rather, but even if it's 50% of the time, or as long as it's high 55%, 60% is better better than having it the other way around. And meal prepping and things like that, and just being aware of like nutrition and preparing your meals in advance, like what's coming, and eating regularly, drinking regularly, like water. And I know that some people struggle to drink water, but once you build it into a habit, like it becomes automation, you don't have to think about it. And so it's that initial effort that seems like, and you were talking about tracking things earlier, Freddie, about, um,
Mm.
what you eat and how you sleep and working that out. People think, oh God, I can't be asked with that. That's going to take forever.
Yeah.
But you only need a couple of weeks of doing it, and then it's just your thing that you do. And then you get all this data afterwards, and you know exactly where you're at, and you feel much more confident in your actions because you know what your actions are going to produce. And kind of it's the same thing with sorting out your routine, out your habits, your sleep time, wake time, water, nutrition, all of that. And I think so. I have my methodology of the 5 I's. The first one is intervention, kind of staging the intervention with yourself. But the main ones are interruption, so interrupting negative thought processes, so keeping your mind in
Mm.
check, which is super, super important. So journaling can help with that. Even I sometimes encourage people to set a prompt in their phone, like an alarm to go off to check in if their thoughts are positive or negative, and to try and work on bringing those back. And just, a bit of self kind of exploration there. Then the next one is intention, and that's just getting intentional with everything. So with your sleep and wake times, with your water, hydration, your activity, meal prepping and things like that, just being really kind of intentional with what you're doing. And then influence is a massively important one, because we are so influenced by the environments that we're in, and that can be in a cluttered space. It can clutter our minds. So the physical environment is important to keep, like a tidy office space. It's important to put things that inspire you, I guess, in your office. currently in a blank room because I did move my room around, as I mentioned I was going to, and I have yet to put things on the wall behind me. But environment's really, really important in our mood. It can make us feel energized, it can drain us. But perhaps more importantly is people, and people fall into environment. And
Mm.
spending time with the wrong crowd can be really dangerous, because it doesn't matter how much work you do on yourself, if you keep placing yourself in, around unsupportive people, or people that just aren't like-minded, that don't get you, like where you just have to keep constantly explaining yourself. If people constantly don't understand you, and you're constantly having to explain yourself, then you start doubting yourself, and you think, do you know what? Actually, maybe, and it's effort as well. Maybe I'll just like
Mm.
fit in with these guys, but that's not who you are. So it's so important that you spend time with people that are like-minded, and like seek out your tribe, as it were.
Yeah, I love that bit as well, because I think, on the journeys that we're on as entrepreneurs, you want to be around obviously your friends and your family, but you've got to make sure that you spend time with entrepreneurs, and ideally ones that see your problems as small problems because they've already trodden that route, because then everything gets a little bit easier and you can see that you're not the first one to try and do whatever you're trying to do. And certainly your surroundings in terms of people and your environment are massive. And I want to touch on, your experience, in your early 20s, but also recently when you've moved, because you spent your whole life, if I'm right in saying, in London, right? And you've already spoken about how you could fall into the wrong traps, not necessarily in London, but just in general. And you've made a move recently from London, into the countryside, and from what I've heard from you, it's benefiting you a lot, right? Your mental health and your space, and could you talk to that piece a bit around your environment now compared to London?
Oh my God, 100%. I'm just like, I just love it here. So I'm just outside of Bath, 15 minutes from Bath, which is
I was
yours.
going to say, just for reference, you've moved literally from London to where I grew up and lived in the UK, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm kind of like, people say I'm in the middle of nowhere. I don't think I am. I mean, my criteria was somewhere between London and Bristol, which is quite a widespread up, round there. Only because I've got friends in Devon, friends in Bristol, and every opportunity I got, I would bundle the dogs in the car and come out this way. And my sister lives in the Cotswolds as well. For walks and things like that. It's cost me a fortune in Airbnbs. I thought, you know what, London, I don't utilize London, and that in itself annoyed me. Having all this stuff in your doorstep that you didn't want to do, like it was frustrating. So I was just like, let me just move. And I just absolutely, I just absolutely love it here. And it's just made such a difference because I can hear myself. I can hear myself think. And that's what I really struggled with. And because our environments are very triggering as well. So I heard something great. Someone said the other day that you can't heal in the same place that you got sick in, or, you got ill in. And
That's interesting.
yeah, and I was like, oh, it was yesterday. Someone said that to me. I was listening on another podcast, and I was just like, it just got me thinking. And I'll be honest with you, like I actually, and I'm still kind of going through it, and it's going to be a while till I come out of it. But I was completely burnt out when I got here, like numb. Motivation lacking. Like I just had no enthusiasm for stuff really. I was hanging on by a thread, and I've kind of kept things going. It was quite busy because I had stuff like that just rolled over from last year. That I still need to kind of serve out, but I really, only in the last couple of months, and it takes a while to get settled in a new place, have I managed to like create a bit more sort of space for me. But it's just made all the difference to just have that peace out here
Mm.
and go on lovely long walks. And I don't know whether it's a dog, but I would never go on a walk before. Maybe I feel like I was very outdoorsy as a kid, and I feel like I lost my way in London. I went, the bars and the restaurants and the fanciness and maybe a bit of the designer labels. This is quite a while ago, and I think I probably got lost there for a good while. And I feel like when I actually came here, I felt like I'd been here the whole time. It was really weird. And so I'm actually just figuring this out now in my head, but it feels like I've actually come home in a way, like I've come back to myself, and that I've spent
Mm.
actually a good number of years kind of getting lost in
Yeah.
London, swept up by the busyness of it all and sort of, going off in places that actually I didn't really want to go.
I mean, we see it. You see it all the time, don't you? Where people, you get to success or whatever your journey is, and then you get lost with whatever's happening around you. So literally, what we were just saying 5 minutes ago around, you become or you are whatever your surroundings are. So if you're in London or we're here in Dubai and you see these designer labels and people drinking this sort of thing and these sort of bars, you just sort of join in. But actually, I completely agree with you that that sort of wholesome place or, something that resonates with you more deeply, like the countryside or wherever it is, outside, hiking, sport, whatever it is. I think you can sort of immediately realize, or over time you can realize that that's actually what you want in life. That's where you put your value. And I think everyone comes to that, recognition at some point. But it's just that journey you've got to go on to understand and to learn and to make those wrong decisions. And then they actually highlight the right decisions more so, right? So yeah, I completely agree. And I'd love to hear what some of the bits about, your routine now in the countryside and how it's different to London. What does it allow you to do? You've obviously mentioned walks, but is there other things that are easier or actually maybe harder, but you enjoy them more?
I think it's just, well, believe it or not, I enjoy London more. Like I was back on Tuesday and I took the train. Like I appreciate things more. I appreciate my parents more because they're not on my doorstep all the time. I spend far more intentional time because it's not all the time. When you have stuff there, like you just don't often utilize it. You don't know what you got until it's gone, right? It's kind of that saying. And I think moving away, and I'm back often, and I'm on the road, and I travel around a lot. And I think that's why it's so nice to have this little haven here to come back to. So I mean, next week I'm going to go into London on the Friday because I've got a wedding in Suffolk on the Saturday. But then I've got another event on the Tuesday. So I'm like, instead of coming back and going back again, I'm just going to go stay down there for a week. Which will be the longest I kind of stay, but normally I'm going sort of 3-4 days at a time. I'm back and forth, and then Tuesday, I love getting the train in, which I did on Tuesday. because that hour on the it's quicker than driving and it goes straight into town. That hour on the train is the most productive hour that I like ever have. I just take my laptop and I get so much done on the train because it's like time blocking, isn't it? You know, you're forced.
Exactly.
You know, you've got this set amount of time, so you're like, go, go, go. Whereas, you know, you sit down in your office and you're like, well, I've got all day and maybe I'll make a cup of tea, and you know, that kind of procrastination sets in. So
Yeah.
I'm off on a tangent now. But yeah, it's just yeah, I think, you know, having this haven is just really nice for me to kind of, as I said before, I like to go, you know, party and be the life and soul, but then I need a few days to recover. And so it's
Yeah.
just important to have that, to remove myself from the situation. It just makes me appreciate seeing my friends more, the events that I go to, and just appreciate other environments as well, you know, moving around.
Totally. I mean, we always think about environments, obviously, and literally moving or just changing the environment you are in, just by moving your room around or by, going to a different place to work has a massive impact on you. And actually, I'm really glad you brought up the sort of 1 hour on the train piece because I love, so to get back to the UK from here is between a 6 and 8 hour flight. And I was really annoyed when they put the Wi-Fi on the planes because I love that time where you can't work, you're just on your own and you're reflecting, or maybe you watch a film. But how often do you watch a film without checking your phone or without having like a little chat in between? I think that time, like you said, to reflect and to just be on your own is actually something that we don't do enough. And, we've got mutual friends that do really, a lot of meditation. And I think if you just try and do 5 minutes meditation on your own, it's actually a lot harder than you think, and especially to get into a routine of self-improvement is actually harder than you think. And one of the other things that I've seen you say before is that true confidence and happiness can only come from the work you do on the inside, not on the outside, which I think actually is really prevalent to this conversation because there's so much you can do on the outside to make you more confident, whether it's, clothes, cars, trips, posting everything you do on social media. But actually the stuff that you do on the inside that no one else can really see is what will have the greatest impact, right?
Totally. And it's the hardest thing because it's so much easier to stick a plaster on it, isn't it? You know, than actually
Yes.
clean out the wound or, you know, fix it, you know, if there's an injury or whatever. But yeah, it's just, and this is the problem because you know, before digital stuff was like in our face all the time, you know, we go out and we have to physically open a magazine or look at a billboard to see an advert for something. But now we're literally bombarded with messages. And you know, it's not just one static advert. Like, you know, well, you'll know from business in terms of like creating like these campaigns that kind of really like, you know, sort of work on you, and then you get shown these things, and you know, from what's going on subconsciously and the psychology of what, you know, these things are doing to you. It's dangerous. We have to be really kind of mindful of what we're viewing because we get led to believe that, you know, we aren't worthy and we need these things, or that we aren't well and we need these things, when actually probably damn fine. What we need to do is just like shut out the noise and just tune in with ourselves, because everything is pulling us away from ourselves in this world. And you know, even socializing with friends is a great thing, but you're around other people and you're kind of picking up energies and you're picking up other people's ideas. So I just think it's really important to have that time with yourself, whether it's journaling, well, I think journaling is important anyway, but you know, meditating, or if you're like me and you're really crap at sitting still, I just walk. And you were asking about like what my days kind of look like, and I think because the weather's so amazing at the moment, we're having amazing weather in the UK, like I just want to walk. I just don't want to stop walking. And I think in terms of, you know, I'm healing myself a little bit at the moment as well. So just pacing around really helps me to get my thoughts kind of going. I struggle to sit down, and also like in terms of working, like I'll take my laptop around into different locations of the house, but also out as well. Just like on the train, I'm just could be a bit more productive. I get a bit stagnant in the office, which is why I've tried to move it around and see if I can work here for a bit, which will probably work for like 2 weeks, and then I'll move the room around again.
But even like knowing where you think best is self-reflection because you've understood where you, and I'm exactly the same, right? So I know that if I go for a walk or, back in the UK, if I was mowing the grass or something, I know that I will have more thoughts, and you're benefiting from doing those things. And walking's a great example of that. And I think there's definitely something to be said for the right amount of self-confidence, because we've mentioned before about the abundance versus scarcity mindset, and obviously we can do better in life, especially as entrepreneurs, if we're in that abundant mindset sort of setting. But obviously, if you have too much self-confidence and you start to build an ego and you become arrogant, that obviously has a negative effect on most people. You know, some people make it work, but others don't like them. So it's not the place to try and be. But do you have some tips, you know, as this is your area of expertise, for someone who is suffering from self-doubt or low confidence, and how they can start to take those steps towards being in a better place?
Self-awareness. Just build your self-awareness, and start somewhere. So yeah, I mean, look, self-doubt affects us all, and it's important that we have it, because otherwise we bulldoze our way through life, and make a bit of a mess. So self-doubt is actually there to help us, and also it makes us check if we really want the thing, want to do the thing, want to have the thing, or whatever it is. So it's kind of that check-in, and a bit like spoken about like imposter syndrome. It's just a reminder of like, how important is this to you, and do you really want it? And I think you can question when these feelings come up, these feelings of doubt, question them. Where are they coming from? Where are they stemming from? And it's normally not the first thing that you think of, which is why writing things down, we don't have to use the word journaling, just get some A4 sheets of paper out. And if it feels overwhelming, just break it down, i.e. set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes, and just start to unpick. And just see where it kind of gets you, because you'll realize that there's like, layers to stuff. And quite often a lot of our self-doubt is, coming from beliefs that are rooted like way back in our past that aren't, relevant anymore. And if we can call them out, and sometimes we can actually think of these things in our head, but it's not the same as writing them down. And when we write them down and we can see it as a physical thing in front of us, and we go, well, this physical thing isn't relevant anymore, you can kind of laugh at it and chuck it out your system, where even if you realize it in your head, it's not a physical thing, so it doesn't quite work as well. So I'm just a massive advocate of writing things down, and just giving yourself the Spanish Inquisition, asking yourself like, well, why do I feel this way? And if it's like, oh, because of this, well, why do I feel that? And because of this, well, why? Why, what, when? Asking these questions, and you can get to kind of the root cause of it, and just destabilize that belief or the reason for that doubt that you have.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because that I like exactly what you said, and I think people should do it, and a lot of people do it, and it's reflection is so important. And also depends how you are as a learner. So I know that I'm a reflective learner, so that I know that I need to go back and look over stuff. But bringing it towards the business side, and in my corporate experience, we would never be allowed to just run a project and spend £1 million on budget without reflecting on what's gone well and what's gone poorly. It's something that is so ingrained in a corporate. And then you look at entrepreneurs and their businesses, and most of them, or the ones that are doing well, will certainly run those sort of meetings daily, if not weekly, just to look at what are we doing well, what's the strategy going forward. But actually, let's look back and do a retrospective and say what went wrong and why, and how can we learn from it. So to then move that onto an actual individual and say you should do it, I can almost hear people going, oh, it's too difficult though. And because you are literally challenging them to say, where did you go wrong, or where can you improve? And that's such a hard thing for people to understand. They need to be held accountable to it. So one of the things we try and talk about with people is sort of the analysis of what you're talking about there. So realize what the issues are. Straight away, look at a plan, build out a draft of a plan, try and understand where you can improve, and then sort of try and build in a system that will do it for you. So if that's journaling, like you said, the plan is to journal for a month, or to grow your business by this much in 2 months. Put a system in place which helps you do that, and then find accountability. However you can find it, you have to be held accountable, because I think in this day and age, it's so easy just to give up, and just to not think about it, and not see those immediate results. And we talk a lot about delayed gratification in business, and that was what makes a good entrepreneur, a great entrepreneur, being able to wait to see or reap the rewards of what they've been working on. And it's the same with what you're saying, from what I'm hearing. If you can put the work in now on yourself and your self-confidence, over time that will compound, and it'll only go one way, which is towards success.
100%. Yeah, and it's like, just start now. Don't waste any more time like doing it. But it doesn't have to be like, oh, I need a whole new lifestyle and a whole new routine. Just start building it in slowly, like baking it in, and just make a 5 minute habit. You know, even with people with exercise, I'm like, do 5 minutes of a YouTube video. The YouTube video may be half an hour, the kettlebell workout. Do 5 minutes of it. That's it. You know, and I know personal trainers that encourage people to go walk into a gym, go on the treadmill for 5 minutes, come out the gym, and that's that. You know, and just building that slowly, so it's not daunting, it's not overwhelming. You don't feel like your identity is threatened, because our identity is tied up in our routine as well. Like, you know, so if you start moving things around, you know, it's like someone coming into a house and like moving all the stuff around. Like, it's like, oh no, nothing's in its normal place, and you know, it's not right. So just be kind to yourself, and you know, just understand yourself, and just start baking in these little bits of ways to improve your life and to help you understand what you're doing in your life as well, like with these like kind of consistent actions, as you said, of like tracking, or a bit of journaling, a bit of walking, you know, putting these things in and just documenting it. But I just think with the, as you're saying about the kind of tracking, in a way, is like, if you do, even if journaling's hard, because it can be like you open a blank page, it's like, well, what do I write, and you're kind of frozen again, because it's a personal thing. If you're reflecting on your company or how you did at work, that's specific, but it's like, how am I, you know, feeling? It's like, whoa, that's like, where do I even start? So even just setting yourself like 5 questions that you answer every morning. You know, how do I feel? You can even make yourself multi-choice if you want. You know, how do I feel? What is the plan for today? You know, how was yesterday, or whatever it was. And then if you answer those 5 questions every single day, then you've actually got great, and you've got clear, succinct answers to reflect back on, even like a sort of a year down the line. And that's, you know, only going to take you 5 minutes. It's not like you have to sit there journaling for half an hour.
I agree. I love what you said there. Bake it in. If you bake that into your everyday discipline, a bit of accountability, that's the way to do it. It's not one of those things that should be like a nice to have. Like, if I can do that, I'll fit that in today. No, if you just over a few days or a week, bake it in so it becomes part of what you do, because you know it's self-development. So, like you said, 5 minutes a day, but they could be the most beneficial 5 minutes that you spend in that day, because that will compound over a month, 2 months, a year, 2 years, and it will take you to a better place. I think it's incredible, and I love the journey that you're able to explain. Camilla, I want to take you towards a tiny bit towards the end of this podcast about yourself. So, if you were going to have a full free day, how would you spend it? I can see you get a little bit nervous there when I said that. You didn't know what was going to go.
Too many options.
Yeah.
A full free day. Do you know what, Freddie? Like, this sounds so ridiculous. I'm so obsessed with where I live. Like, I'd probably just be out walking, just walking, walking. I just love me walking at the moment. But if it's raining, then no.
It's not raining in your ideal day though.
No, it's not. No, my ideal day, it's not raining. Just some sort of adventure, and you know, we've done quite a bit. The great thing about where I live now is that I've got easier access to the coast, like to Devon. That was the whole point. I mean, it used to take me like an hour to even get out of London. And thought of that, you think, oh, I'll just stay put. So, you know, going up to Wales, it's like 45 minutes. Like, it's just so easy, and down to Dorset. So just, yeah, a big day trip. Just bundle the dogs in the car and just drive somewhere, and just go and experience a new place, and explore. I love exploring and adventure.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, one of the answers we've had to that on the podcast was they would just do exactly what they do every single day. They literally live their perfect life, and I think that's a nice thing to say. But also, what you said is, you know, it resonates with what I would do. Just be out and about, walking. That is literally what you try and fit in your everyday life anyway. But if you had a full day free, why not? So, what about a quote that you think about often that sort of inspires you, or leads you towards what your greater mission is? Do you have something that you often refer back to?
I have loads constantly. I love a
Oh,
quote.
really?
But there is one. I think I even put it in the book. But I might not even be quoting it correctly. But it's start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And I think,
Oh, I like
you know, we can only, you know, the hardest part is starting anything, and we can only start from, you know, where we are and with our thing, but we can build from there. You know, so if we can just do what we can at the moment with just the resources that we have, and just make a start on it, then, you know, the next step, we can get more skills, we can build more resources, we can, you know, go further, but we just have to start, I think. And that just always reminds me that, you know, it just makes me think, like, what can I do in this moment? you know, what do I have around me? What am I capable of? Instead of going, oh, well, I'll do it when I've got X, Y, and Z, or I need this thing. It's like, no, what can I do right now with what I have?
That's awesome. I think, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, self-confidence was the aim of today's show, to sort of to talk about it and explore it through your journey. And I think it's been really, really helpful. Some great tips in there, some great action points people can take. Where can people find you, Camilla, if they want to learn a bit more about you?
I am on the gram probably most of the time more than anywhere else. So Instagram is at Camilla J Collins, or my home online, my website is camillacollins.com or camillajcollins.com. Actually, both will take you there.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been amazing to have you on. And yeah, hope to speak to you soon.
Lovely. I'll speak to you soon. Thanks so much, Freddie, and thanks everybody for listening.